Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events shaping our world. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're taking a closer look at the ongoing discussions between the UK and the EU, particularly in light of recent comments from influential voices in Brussels. Michel Barnier, the former Brexit negotiator and current prominent figure in French politics, has been speaking out about the UK's decision to leave the EU. In a recent interview, Barnier expressed his conviction that the UK made the wrong choice in opting for Brexit, citing the country's slow economic growth and ongoing immigration debates as evidence. However, it's essential to note that these issues are complex and multifaceted, and opinions on their relationship to Brexit vary widely. Barnier also touched on the possibility of the UK rejoining the EU, suggesting that it could be a viable option in the future. He mentioned that the UK might be able to regain exemptions from certain EU policies, such as the single currency and the Schengen passport-free area, given the precedents set by other member states. Nevertheless, any potential reunion would require careful negotiation and consideration of various factors, including economic and political implications. The conversation around Brexit and the UK's future relationship with the EU remains highly relevant, with senior EU diplomats warning that momentum is being lost in the talks. The UK and EU are set to meet for another round of reset discussions later this month, where they will address issues like tuition fees for EU students and potential cooperation on defense and security. As we continue to follow these developments, it's crucial to approach the topic with nuance and an open mind, recognizing the diverse perspectives and opinions at play. We'll be exploring more of the intricacies surrounding Brexit and its aftermath in future episodes. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into a complex web of international politics and shifting alliances in Europe. The recent election loss of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has sent ripples across the continent, with many EU leaders breathing a sigh of relief at his departure from power. However, Orbán remains steadfast in his vision for a more nationalist and sovereigntist Europe, and he's not going down without a fight. As the leader of the Patriots for Europe party group, a collection of far-right parties from across the bloc, Orbán is determined to transform the EU in his image. He's calling for decreased EU purview in matters of rule of law and democracy, a zero-tolerance approach to immigration, and deeper cooperation with Russia and China. But with Hungary's new government, led by Peter Magyar, pledging more constructive cooperation with the EU, it remains to be seen how effective Orbán's efforts will be. The far right has indeed scored some recent successes in Europe, with France's National Rally and Alternative for Germany gaining ground in elections. However, fractures have emerged within the movement over issues like the US-Israel war in Iran and President Trump's threats to annex Greenland. As the EU summit discusses ramping up support for Ukraine, Orbán is surrounded by his far-right allies, plotting their next move. It's a delicate balancing act, with many EU leaders walking a fine line between cooperating with Orbán's successor and pushing back against his nationalist agenda. As Thomas Byrne, Minister for European Affairs for Ireland, noted, Hungary's lifting of its veto on Ukraine's accession process is a significant step forward. But with the Patriots for Europe party group still a force to be reckoned with, it's clear that Orbán's influence will continue to be felt in European politics. As we navigate this complex landscape, one thing is certain: the future of the EU and its relationships with neighboring countries will be shaped by the ongoing struggle between nationalist and pro-European forces. Welcome back to Concrete Block. As we wrap up today's show, we're taking a closer look at the latest developments in the Middle East, where a historic agreement has been reached between the United States and Iran. The deal, signed after intense negotiations, aims to bring an end to decades of tension and hostility between the two nations. According to reports, the agreement outlines a framework for the removal of economic sanctions against Iran, in exchange for limitations on its nuclear program. The U.S. has also agreed to provide significant financial support for Iran's reconstruction and development, with a planned investment of at least $300 billion. The deal has been met with cautious optimism from leaders around the world who see it as a major step towards reducing tensions in the region. However, some critics have expressed concerns about the potential risks and uncertainties surrounding the agreement. Iran's commitment to not developing nuclear weapons is a key aspect of the deal, and the country has agreed to allow international inspectors to monitor its nuclear activities. The U.S., on the other hand, has pledged to terminate all sanctions against Iran, including those related to its nuclear program. As the world watches this unfolding story, it's clear that there are still many challenges ahead. The agreement will need to be ratified by both countries' governments, and its implementation will require careful monitoring and verification. Reactions from other nations in the region have been mixed, with some expressing support for the deal and others raising concerns about its potential impact on regional stability. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, for example, have expressed reservations about the agreement, citing concerns about Iran's growing influence in the region. Despite these challenges, many experts believe that this deal represents a significant opportunity for peace and cooperation in the Middle East. As one analyst noted, this agreement has the potential to be a game changer for the region, but it will require careful management and diplomacy to ensure its success. As we conclude today's show, it's clear that this story is far from over. We'll continue to follow developments and provide updates as more information becomes available. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.